The street is where we create. We call it suburbanpreneurship.
Mixing big company resources with an entrepreneurial spirit.
This is Electric People.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Electric People. We are here today with Shawn Loiseau, GOAT rally champion, newly promoted team leader in Boston West. He has been with the company for less than a year now, about 9 months.
9 months,
yeah. 9 months or so. He's through his third quarter. And we're really excited. Shawn is a newcomer to the company. He just came out of the gates just going crazy, Ty. It's been one of the most just phenomenal starts to the solar career that I've ever seen. So we're excited to kind of have you guys hear from Shawn, especially if you're new to the company, and just kind of hear some of the secrets that Shawn has for getting off to a quick start and what's really helped him with his success. But
all I heard was GOAT rally champion.
GOAT rally champion, man. Year one.
And
just to kind of give you some quick stats, I know we don't do these lengthy intros normally, but I want to give you a couple quick stats with Shawn. So his first full quarter with us was Q4 of 2023, and he hit franchise in Q4.
First quarter?
So he started
Q1. I hit 20 installs my first
official. 20 installs in Q4 in his first official quarter, and then he hit franchise in Q1 of 24, franchise again last quarter, right?
25 this quarter.
And then 25 this past quarter, and then on pace to do it again this quarter. So he's just phenomenal. And one of my favorite speakers I've heard train in meetings and just does a really great job. So his energy is contagious. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear from him today. So Shawn, thanks for being on with us today, man.
Thank you, Adam. I still got jitters, Ty. I've been looking forward to meet you, man. I'm starstruck.
I feel like I know you though.
I
it's
know.
funny because you came onto the scene and we immediately knew your name. It was cool.
When I came into the company, there's major people that you get in their presence and you just feel like, wow, I want to be around that guy more. And obviously Adam is that guy for me. You are the guy in the distant, especially like Brad. And there's guys in the company like you'll see on the league TV and stuff. And you're just like, that's a dude. And
that's a dude right there.
I'm super excited to be here. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
So Shawn, give us a little bit of background. How did you get started in solar? What were you doing before this? I know we'll get into your NFL stuff, but just career wise, what were you doing before you came into solar?
So I love the entrepreneur aspect. I've owned a nutrition store in Shrewsbury for going on 10 years. It's been very successful. I'd always be in the gym working out, and people, hey, Shawn, what do you take for supplements? What do you take for protein? And I was sick of sending people to websites. I started selling supplements out of the back of my car.
Oh, really?
Got to the point where I had created so much volume, and people keep coming back asking me for stuff. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to open a store. So I met Sunny, who is now my wife. We started the store together. We lived above the store, and then we evolved right before COVID. We started building home and commercial gyms to the point where COVID hit. I was the only guy that was building home gyms. You would send me a wish list. I networked my way into these warehouses. There were 70,000 square foot warehouses, and I could go there and just basically send pictures and pricing, and it was a drop ship. I didn't have to pay overhead. I didn't have to pay storage fees. So I was showing up with a truck and a trailer, leaving there, had no idea how to take gym equipment apart, how to put it together. I just knew what gym equipment was because I lived in the gym growing up. So showing up to houses with long hair and tattoos, people were trying to figure me out, almost look at me like, is this guy about to rob me? And then we'd get into conversation, and my whole life I've loved people. I never went to school for business, but I knew that the way you treat somebody becomes contagious as far as an advertisement. So I became an instant advertisement when people post me on Facebook and telling their friends hey, Shawn's the guy. So we did over $1 million in gym sales in under 12 months.
That was the best time to be doing it if you had the connection to be able to do it, right?
Nobody could get it, and I was the only guy, and I just couldn't get it done fast enough. I had Sunny on my Facebook Messenger. We were posting on Facebook. We had literally 500 messages a day trying to close deals, and I was like, we're on to something. And I would always joke, sitting in that nutrition store from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. every night, all I did was pour into people. You would come in for as little as a protein bar, and if you said, Shawn, fire me up, I was on go. I was ready to go. And I was like, wow, I can bring this somewhere. I just didn't know what that was going to be. And it transitioned to the point where Mitch Bolduc, I'm sure you heard the name. He's one of the top recruiters at our office. He's a family friend of mine, and he had always said, Shawn, let's put solar on your house. He never told me about the opportunity. And finally, when I heard what the opportunity was, he was coming to the office. And when I sat in our office for the first time, it was the closest I ever felt to being in a football locker room again. And I was like, I don't know what this is. I'm going to come here and wreck it. Like, I'm going to be the top guy, and I want to be in front of this room talking, and I want to fire everybody up. And that's just what I did. I was like, hey, I'm going to give everything up aside. Having 3 babies at the house, it was tough, you know, to walk away from the store and be like, I'm fully committed to this, but this is what I wanted. And I feel like in my life, if you know what you want and you know who you are and you have a direction, it became very clear, like right away, that this is what I wanted to do.
So did you close the store?
Still open. I hired a full-time guy.
There you
go. So he's there full-time, and the gym equipment stuff I fully backed out of. Like, I had people who still wanted gyms, so I was showing up like when I first started my first quarter and being like doing a gym delivery and being like, hey, can I see your electric bill? So it was like an easy transition. And I was like, you know, I can kind of part-time do this, but to be a full force on the doors, I have to fully commit.
Everything that was happening. Speaking of power,
Yeah.
you know, just everything that happened with the gym stuff, he just transitioned to solar. So go ahead.
I was going to say, Adam always talks about your energy. It's immediately palpable. Like, it's pretty awesome. It's cool to be a giver of energy. It's cool to burn bright because, again, like the value from you know, our standpoint, we've been doing this for a couple decades now, and there's a couple things that are really valuable. Like, I love that you're experiencing this and like reaping all the benefits, which you so deserve. But to have somebody come into a team that immediately shows people a new level, like I haven't heard of people coming in and doing 20 in their first quarter and over 25 in their second in a long time, but it's completely possible. In fact, you know, a lot of the people that are in senior leadership are the ones that did that when they came in. So I love that. But the value that it adds to a group or a team when somebody operates at that level and is willing to pour into other people, like you can't overstate the value of that to a team and to a company. So thank you for that. Like, I know it's who you are, but it gets me excited. Like just hearing the story and seeing people maximizing the opportunity. I love it.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I think for me, the energy thing, like people may think that this is fake until they realize like after a month, like, dude, this kid doesn't stop.
Hold on. Sunny's here. Is it real? She says, yeah, it's full time. Huh?
So
turn it down sometimes. Huh? Like, where's the off switch?
With all the failures I've had in life, I've been cut by the NFL, just in the NFL 5 times. I've had so many times in my life where I've been told, like, Shawn, you're not good enough. This is not for you. And yes, I had 20 installs, which is what everybody sees. But what everybody doesn't see is I was the most canceled guy in Sunrun.
Sure.
But I was not afraid of that. And I feel like this job, 95% of the mentality is fear of failure and fear of being told no and fear of being canceled. And I live for it. Like, I love that. Like, if I'm in a situation where I can face failure is just another opportunity to learn. So I was in such a speed pace, like in my mind, like I have to learn everything about this and I don't have any time to lose. So the failure was more competitive for me. Like, I want to learn why people want to cancel. I want to go to the door and hear the objections. I want to go to the scariest house. That's the door I want. Because on the field, like, we're going to go into football stuff, but I would walk onto an NFL field and you'd see these guys 6'6", 8 packs, and being like, I got to go against this guy for 60 minutes. It got to the point where your mindset was, okay, I'm okay to die on a football field today. Like, that's what I'm willing to give. And it gets to the point where on the doors, like, you have to go to a scary place. And it's almost like acting, but that's how you bring the best out of you. So with coaching too, like Adam, I'll tell you, he's probably one of the coaches that I can relate to as far as my NFL career, because you get these NFL coaches who are just getting paid all this money, and you realize why they are not only a coach, they're a mentor, but a father figure. They learn how to love you without disrespecting you. So it got to the point where, like, I would have my best game, best performance, best practice. They wouldn't say anything about what I did good. All they wanted to tell me is what I did bad. And I just never understood it as a player. Like, why is this guy always on me? Like, coach, I had 18 tackles. Well, yeah, you missed 3. Like, you should have been in the hole with your head on the inside. And it's like, why doesn't this guy like, and come to find out he loved me so much. He was just showing me all that attention. So I remember, like, my first couple weeks, Adam had come to the office and he texted me. He's like, hey, we expect our top reps to do like 2 to 3 deals a week. And in my mind, I'm like, it's only Tuesday. Like, what is he talking about? Does he talk like this to everyone? And then I had to realize, like, he's texting me out of all the people he could think of. So that was super important, you know?
Yeah.
Shawn, let's talk about your football career. I know that that's a part of the story that I'd like to just make sure we share with everybody. And I think it just has so much to do with the way that you've approached this job also. And it's like really indicative of kind of just your general approach to life. But so Ty, Shawn went to a school called Shrewsbury High. They'd never had anyone make it to the NFL from Shrewsbury High. which a lot of high schools have, that where like no one ever makes it to the NFL. But then Shawn didn't get any offers out of high school, and he was like one of the top defensive players in the state of Massachusetts, doesn't get a single offer, and then ends up going to Merrimack College, which is down the street from where I live here. And Merrimack is a D2 school. The amount of people that make it to the NFL from a D2 school is less than 1%. I mean, it's like less than 1% of 1%. It just doesn't happen. And Shawn was able to make it to the NFL from Merrimack College. But what I want to hear, Shawn, is what was your mindset, you know, not just in high school, but like in college, knowing that the NFL was your dream and you had this mountain to climb to get there, and you actually didn't have a very great platform to get there. So what was your mindset like going into college, and just, you know, as you're going through, how did you have this dream that you thought was something that was possible?
Right. So I feel like I had to learn right away. I was always being told I wasn't the best athlete, and it was clear. Like, athletically, I wasn't the most gifted. I wasn't the biggest. I wasn't the strongest. I wasn't the fastest. So I had to become very clear with what I was going to do on a football field. And I knew that if I practiced energy and I practiced my physicality, which came in the gym every single day, while everybody else would be out partying, everybody else would be out doing what they wanted to do, I literally lived in the gym. It's all I wanted to do every day in the gym. My father would be like, Shawn, all you do is go to the gym. And I'm like, listen, if today the guy who I'm competing against doesn't go to the gym, I'm going to outwork that guy, to the point where we would show up on a football field and I would start walking up to people at the 50-yard line who I was playing against, like, hey, you're going to have to see me for 60 minutes. And they would laugh. And then I could notice, like, the shift early in my career. It'd be like the third, fourth quarter, and I'd still be in the piles. I never had a game under 10 tackles. And I could see their face like, this kid is never going to stop. Like, he's in every pile. So consistency is almost like in a career as an entrepreneur. The days you feel the worst, the plays that you feel hurt, you as a football player, you know, I never played a game healthy. Healthy isn't average or common when you're a linebacker. You have to hit every play. But the mentality for me is to never quit, just always doing things that other people didn't seem as normal. So, like, you'll see me at the end of every quarter. You made a joke last quarter, like, Shawn's going to show up, watch these last couple weeks. The last week of first quarter, I had 9 installs in Q1. The last week of this quarter, I had 8 installs in the last week. And it's not that I'm not doing anything during the beginning of the quarter. I'm just building up momentum. So me on solar, I'm kind of like the same as I am in football. I'm just very consistent, and I work the same way every time. But some days I'm going to have great days. Some days I'm going to have bad days. But showing up, me in college, I had 387 tackles in 30 games. So I was an All-American sophomore, junior, senior year. I led the country in tackles every year. I won all the awards, and I was still being told I wasn't good enough. So the chip on my shoulder just got crazy. Like, it was to the point where I would go to the gym, and I would find somebody who I thought in my mind, like, this guy doesn't think that I'm good enough. And I would train in the gym and be like,
you're just like mean mugging this guy from across. He's like, what?
I had to make these things up. Like, I really would make things up in my mind. Like, this guy thinks that, like, I'm not a good football player. I would become so sick. Like, it was almost like a sickness, to the point.
Was there a point that you started to believe you could make the NFL? I mean, I know you had scouts coming to college and coming to practice and stuff like that, but you still didn't get drafted. So, like, what was the point where you thought, when you're in college and you thought, I think I got a shot at making the NFL here?
I think it became the most real junior year. I had woke up at 7 a.m. on like a Thursday, and my coach texted me like, hey, Shawn, there's 2 NFL scouts here to see you. Come to the field. And I was like, Coach, I just had wrist surgery. And he's like, yeah, come to the field. Bring your cleats. So I showed up, and they're like, we want you to run a 40. So I run the first 40, and I got like 5 minutes to warm up. I run a 40. And I'm watching their faces, and they're like kind of making a face like I didn't run fast. And coach is like, run it again. And I'm like, damn, I must have been slow. So I go and run it again. He's like, Shawn, you're good. Go back to the room. And it was such like a mind F for me. I'm like, what did I do? He texts me. He's like, you ran a 4.53 and a 4.51 at 238 pounds, fresh out of a wrist surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's flying by.
That's so fast.
That's
I'm a
like,
just
so you guys have some context. If you don't know football, the fastest guys in the NFL are running like a 4.2. That's like Olympic speed. There's been 5 of those ever. And then wide receivers are like a really fast wide receivers, 4.3, running backs 4.3, and then linebackers are very rarely 4. They're like usually 4.4 to 4.7, I'd say, right? maybe even 4.8.
Yeah.
Some of the bigger
Who was
guys.
the one on is it Tyreek Hill that's like crazy fast?
Yeah, he's like
What's
a
he running?
4.2. He's like 4.2.
That is insane, huh?
Yeah, they say the
Insane.
fastest ever was Bo Jackson, but it's like hand clocked, so it's not the same. But they say he was like a 4.1. But
There's
I don't know.
gamers too, man. Like there's people who run with football pads on as 10 pounds of pads, and they're faster with pads on. I swear.
Yeah.
But I mean,
They
it's
get that
subjective
momentum
with the
tilted
clock.
forward.
But yeah, so anyway, 4.5 is really fast especially at 230 is very fast.
Cooking. So that put me in a bracket, and they didn't know. They thought I was a senior. They just heard so much commotion coming out of this little school, Merrimack, to the point where my coach is like, Shawn, they stayed in the film room for 6 hours watching film. And then he's like, you know what the films they watched? They wanted to see the games that we were getting beat the worst and how you responded in the fourth quarter when you were down. They didn't
That's
want to see
interesting.
they didn't ask to see your highlight film. They didn't ask to see
They
the
want to
games
see
that
how
we
you
blew up.
react when it's not going well.
They wanted to see the integrity of Shawn Loiseau. They had already seen what they wanted to see, that I have the speed, I was coachable, I showed up, come to the field with cleats, don't ask questions, I didn't complain, I didn't say, hey, do I get more time to warm? Nothing. Just, okay, what do you need me to do, coach? Yep, thank you so much for the opportunity. Go back to your room. I'm like, go back to my room. Like, did I disappoint you? They said nothing. They just ghosted me. Going into senior year, I have NFL scouts at every practice with clipboards. So now everybody at Merrimack thinks they're getting scouted. Our practices became like game days. So like I'm blowing it out on Saturday, 18 tackles. I can barely feel good on Monday. We're in full pads. They're like, Shawn, the Raiders and the Eagles are here. Everybody, all the freshmen, sophomores are like, I'm going to
You're treating every practice like it's
every practice is
Yeah.
a game. It was crazy, but like the commotion at Merrimack, the momentum that I was feeling, I'm like, wow. And coming out in 2012 was the craziest linebacker draft class the NFL's probably ever seen. It was Bobby Wagner, Luke Kuechly, Levante David, Bruce Irvin, Chandler Jones. There was like 5 to 6 Pro Bowl guys, first round guys. So it became very real when I started having agents come to the school and like offering pocket money and being like, what can we get to have you sign? And we had an agent fly me and my dad into New York City in like a private jet. We got picked up with like a guy holding our name at the airport, and we get brought up in the middle of Times Square into this office. And these guys, sports stars, they had signed over $2 billion in contract money. The only people they were behind was Rosenhaus. So I'm like, wow, they're like, you're getting invited to the NFL Combine. And that's what we watch on TV. The guys run the 40 and stuff. I'm like, wow, I'm going to the NFL Combine. They're like, yeah, you're in the East-West Shrine game and the Senior Bowl. So I was one of the only 300 guys that year out of all the divisions. I was a Division II guy to get invited there. So I was like, wow, like I really have a shot. And when I would show up and I would look around, I'm like, these guys are all guys. Like they're bigger than me. They're stronger than me. But like, why am I here? I'm here because these guys want to see the integrity of this energy that I always bring. And I'm like, that's just what I'm going to lean on. Like, this is me. This is my superpower. This is what I'm going to be. I'm just going to be the guy that never stops. I'm never going to complain. I'm just going to keep showing up, and I'll die on a football field. And I would tell people this, they would laugh, and then they would see it. And it was like, okay, now I have a story I'm building. So I feel like I'll tell people all the time, from like age 1 to 19, you learn how to hold a pen. From age 20 to 50, you learn how to, like, you're basically writing your story. And then if you do something cool enough, either you tell it or everybody else tells it. And I always loved history. I loved hearing stories. I'm like, dude, I want to just have a cool story.
I was thinking of this quote. I can't remember what book it was from. I was reading it the other day, but it said, it talks about this idea that if you can't be better, be different. And so I think, you know, as you're talking, I just keep thinking, well, you have a brand. You had a brand before I met you. I knew, you know, what people had said about you and stuff like that. And there's probably been more skilled sellers, right, that have come through here. You've only been doing this for less than a year. There's probably been more skilled football players. But the interesting thing is you had a brand, and so they knew what they were getting, right? Which is why you go to any brand is like, okay, I know what this brand means. I identify with it. We have similar values, and so I'm in. So if you have a coach that's looking for, you know, and as you run teams and stuff like that, you know, we always think about this as leaders. It's like, I need a guy that, you always start that. I just need a guy that can put up when no one else puts up. I need a guy that always sees the vision. I need a guy that, and so when you have a positive reputation and a brand, you fall into one of those categories. I need a guy that will give it 100% at every practice, and then boom, you occupy that spot. You know what I mean? I think it's really valuable to be able to do that. They say in motorcycle racing, or any kind of like points racing, like type classes, that you win championships on your bad days, right? So it's
100%.
not, it's anybody can win when they're winning, when everything's clicking, right? But it's the day you show up that your bike's not running well, you're a little bit sick, or you're kind of still hurt. It's, can you get third, not 11th, right? So I'm imagining it's the same. It's like, I'm kind of sore, I'm kind of hurt. Can you get still 10 tackles, not 4? Like, it doesn't have to be a record, but can you? But and I think that that's a really, like, the fact that you know that about your brand and that you're maximizing that is very valuable. I don't think most people know who they are well enough to lean into it.
When you're lost, you make excuses, and excuses get you nowhere. Excuses don't pay the bills. Like I said, I have 3 kids, 5, 3, and 1 years old. So for me to transition to go to doors, when I played football, I had nobody. I had got cut in the NFL 5 times. Instead of going home to mom and dad where it was comfortable, I would ask a friend to live on his couch. And that became a turning point. I took a picture of the couch and I hung it up every day. And when I would get signed back to the NFL, I would hang the couch in the locker. And it became like this viral thing in the Colts locker room. Like, dude, this kid lives on a couch. Like, he just showed up here from a couch. And they're like, why do you do that? And I'm like, do you know what my mindset is when I wake up on a couch every day, man? Like, I want nothing more than to go out there and be in a gym, be around people. Because the face that I had to, like, kind of, when I would go to a gym, when I was cut, the number one thing that I would be asked is, Shawn, what do you think you're going to do next? And that fear of knowing I had to answer that question all day long in a public gym, every day, that was all I needed to hear. It was such a chip. Like, I'm going to go back to the NFL. Do you really think you're going to make it? No, man, I'm just in the gym for nothing. Yeah. So, like, for me to face that every day, and I would tell people every day, like, I'm going back, and then I would go back. I'm like, wow, I'm back. To the point where I got cut 5 times. The 5th time I got brought back, the GM made a joke. He's like, Shawn, do you know why we brought you back? I'm like, no, this is a Thursday. They have to play the Jets on Saturday. So he's like, we brought you in. We have an injury. You're the one guy I know I can plug in right now. And I'm not going to tell you you're going to make the team. I'm just telling you, every time I bring you in, watch this energy that happens in the locker room. Everybody gets better. The guy that I'm putting you behind is going to be so scared you're going to take his job if he messes up. You're probably not going to make the team. I'm just telling you, Shawn. But you're here for a reason. Just don't let off the gas. And I was like, wow. That Saturday, walking out onto New York Jets, the brand new MetLife Stadium, I'm looking across the field. It's Michael Vick, like all these legends, these guys. Adam Vinatieri's warming up, and there's my dad, like, in the front row on the warm-ups. He somehow talked to the security. They let him all the way down. And I'm like, Adam, can we go say hi to my dad? And he's like, sure. Drops everything he's doing, walks over to my dad, and just seeing my dad's face, like, that was the moment that I was like, wow, all this was worth it. Like, he was my biggest fan, you know? And I was like, all these guys, like, they're all rooting for me, like, almost like I was Rudy. But I was right there. I had 2 tackles on kickoff that game. Wow. And it was wild, man.
That's awesome. Tell us about your NFL career. So how'd you end up getting, who picked you up first, and then just, like, walk us through the career that you had?
So coming out of the draft, I was highly ranked as far as, like, a top 10 inside linebacker, but the draft class was crazy. I didn't play one down as a freshman. I technically could have redshirted and came back a 5th year, and then I would have been like a top 3 round draft pick, but I was like, okay, I'll come out. I got all the invites I need. I had been battling injuries at the end of the season. Show up to the combine, I pulled my hamstring running the 40-yard dash. So while I'm mid-run, I pulled it, and I still ran a 4.78. So I couldn't run my second run. I had to shut it down during the workouts, and then I didn't technically get to do a pro day. So I dropped all the way to free agent, a priority free agent. I could have picked any of the 32 teams I wanted to go to. My agent sent me to Houston. So I show up in Houston, and just a bunch of guys there, like J.J. Watt, Brian Cushing, Andre Johnson, Arian Foster. I'm, like, looking around the locker room. I'm like, oh, my God, this is crazy. And then the first practice, it's 105-degree heat. And some of the dudes are wearing long-sleeve shirts. I'm like, why are you wearing a long-sleeve shirt? And they're like, I don't want to get more tan. I'm like, are you guys sick? But they're all from the South. I never realized, like, there's no one from the Northeast who ever makes the NFL, but this was my first taste of playing with NFL guys. Like, in college, my nose tackle was 200 pounds. I was 230. I'm lining up, and J.J. Watt is the nose tackle. I'm like, dude, nobody's touching me. But it was just the speed, the intensity, and the way that they practiced, the way they did everything was so professional. So that transition of me learning how to be a pro, everything was to make it to the next day. While you were practicing, they had a practice field right next to you. They were flying guys in mid-practice, and the coach would be like, hey, see those guys over there have a bad practice? He's taking your spot. And it was like, wow, this is real. Like, guys would be walking in from practice. They'd be taking your name off the locker. Like, hey, man, pack your stuff. You're going home. So it was just a never-ending cycle of guys getting cut, new guys coming in.
The hardest part about it is, like, that's your dream. Like, your whole life you've been dreaming of getting to the NFL, and it is so cutthroat once you're there. What was the biggest difference between high school, college, and pro? Just, like, in terms of even just like the way they practiced and just the general approach to the game?
Speed and the way that you prepare. So preparation, you'll see guys, like if practice is at 9, guys, the real vet guys are there at like 5 a.m. Ice tub, hot tub, stretch, going to the training room, getting stretched out, getting massage, getting whatever they need to get prepared, going through their playbook. Because the playbook in the NFL, it's bigger than the Bible. Like I'm not
Well,
even.
and it changes constantly, right? Like I watched the quarterback documentary, and I'm like, dude, the scholastic ability of these guys to memorize all these is crazy.
Unbelievable. So when we would scout the Patriots, we had a coach just come in to go over Tom Brady's checks. If he rubbed his leg, that means that he saw the linebacker cheat and he was going to blitz, and he's sending the slot on a slant. If he says red or white, he's changing the way that the line protects. If he touches his head and then looks at Gronk, he's telling Gronk, like, go on. And it's little stuff that you don't realize when you're watching a football game. It happens so fast. But to have somebody come up to a line and be able to make these checks, on the defensive side, we don't know what they're going to run for a play. Offense has a little bit of an advantage because they either know they're running run or pass. So as a defensive guy, the biggest transition for me in the NFL, God forbid you take the wrong step. If you step backwards and it's a run and you think it's pass, that 300-pound lineman just got to step on you, and you're probably going to get taken out. You're going to miss the play. So you have to make a split-second decision. Is it run or pass? And if you made a bad decision, man, you're going to have to live with it. You just have to go head first and figure it out. So,
wow. That's crazy.
Crazy.
I can't imagine, like, you're saying it was someone's dream. I think about this a lot with this job is, like, we often say, what would you do to make it in the NFL? And people sacrifice everything, right? They don't go out. They work out. They get up early. They real sacrifice, right? They don't eat junk food. They don't, they keep their grades good so they can have the opportunity. And then once you get it, right, it's that level of cutthroat. But to me, dude, like, I look at our job and our opportunity to, like, earn and help people and stuff. And the idea that a 300-pound like lineman that's that fast could I would do almost anything to never line up against that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and people are like, oh, I live for that. And I'm like, I look at this job and I'm like, at least nobody hits me. Like, I don't wake up with a sore
scary.
neck because I got hit by the equivalent to a truck. You know what I mean? Like,
so it's, I've shared this before, but in high school, there's always like 1 to 3 kids per team that are kind of just better than everybody else. And then all those kids end up playing college ball somewhere, like D2, D1, wherever. Then you go to college, and every kid in college was that kid in high school.
Right.
And the speed is shockingly faster. I mean, you go there and you're like, there's 300-pound guys running as fast as I can run at me, trying to, like, kill me. And then the NFL is less than 1% of the best kid at the best colleges. So it's the Michigans, the Floridas, the Florida States, like Ohio State's, like, it's only the best kids from those schools making the NFL. So the speed from college to the NFL is even probably bigger than high school to college. So it's just so crazy, and everyone's such good athletes. And in high school, it's like a guy's running at you, you can just, like, swat him out of the way and, like, still make a tackle. In the pros, these are the best athletes in the world that are, like, coming after you, and they're all fighting for their jobs, right? They're fighting for $1 million contracts, or just fighting not to sleep on a couch. So it's so crazy. But so you go to Houston,
mm-hmm.
You don't make the team.
Yep.
How did that convo go? Do they just pink slip on your locker? Like, how does that cut process go?
So crazy. So,
and then what was going through your head, like, when it happened? Like, did you think you were going to make the team, and then all of a sudden you just go in there one day and I know how they do preseason. They kind of, like, make cuts each week.
Yep.
So where did you make it in that? And then, like, what was the process of getting cut?
So right away, I had established myself. They put me at 5th string linebacker. They only keep 3. And the top guy was Brian Cushing. So at the 5th string linebacker, you don't get reps. Everything is mental reps, meaning you have to watch practice. If they usually only give the 1st, 2nd, and maybe the 3rd string reps, like physical reps at practice, which means you're not practicing your craft on the field. But after practice, immediately you go to the film room. And the film room, you break it up into positions. So the linebackers go with the linebackers. Every position goes together. And they literally watch play for play. And if you mess up, they rewind it, and they just disrespect you in front of the whole room. So finally, I got the chance to, like, get on the field. And I'm on the field, and I made a couple plays. And then I noticed they wanted to see how I reacted. Okay, we're going to put him on special teams. So I started trickling my way into the into the practice more, to the point where week 1, I had an unbelievable game. I think I had 6 tackles. And then now they cut down. They go from 90 guys in training camp. They have to cut down to 75. So once they cut down to 75, they have to decide to get to a 53-man roster. So you only have 3 games, because the 4th game, the vets don't play at all. It's only the young guys, and it's basically a free-for-all. So if you can make it to the 4th game, you have a legit chance to make this team. So the last game was versus the Minnesota Vikings, and I remember looking across, it's like Adrian Peterson and like all these guys, and you're like, wow, this is crazy. And we're in Reliance Stadium, and Houston, they're crazy about football. Like the craziest thing I've ever seen. I lived in the hotel right behind the stadium, and before games, I would wake up at like 6 a.m. to walk to the locker room, and the parking lot would be full of people tailgating. I'm like, do these people know that we play at like 1 o'clock? Yeah. They're going nuts. And all of a sudden, I get to the gate, and the security's like, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, I'm on the team. He's like, I just saw you walk through the parking lot. I'm like, yeah, I live in the hotel. And like, I get into the stadium and like getting ready for this game. I'm like, I got to do whatever I can to make this team, you know? And I went through the whole game. I had an unbelievable game. One of our safeties get hurt. So the way it works, they have until 4 o'clock to make cuts on the last day of cuts. It was like 3 p.m. And I'm like, wow, I might make this thing. And I get the text, and it's like, hey, coach, hey, Shawn, the coach wants to see you. So he's like, bring your playbook. So I'm walking back, and he's like, Shawn, we have to make a cut. We have one of the safeties get hurt. We just want you to wait in the hotel. We're going to cut you, and then we're probably going to bring you back. So that happened, and my agent's like, Shawn, you have an offer from Indy. So I ended up getting in contact with Indianapolis, and they're like, we want to sign you to practice squad. So I get shipped over to Indianapolis. I'm on Indianapolis Colts for the whole rookie season practice squad. So basically, you do all the practicing, but you don't get to play in the game. So you do all. You
don't even get a dress for the games, right?
You get to be on the sidelines. So
you do get to be on the sideline.
You're on the
talk about earning your stripes.
You're in civilian clothes on the sideline. Is that what it is? Or you're in pads?
No, you're just in regular clothes. You don't get to wear pads. Yeah. So they only can dress 53 guys active on an NFL roster during the game.
And you don't travel with the team either on away games, right?
Some teams do travel, the practice guys, but for us, they didn't travel us. So it was to the point where I would be on the sidelines, and I'd have like the best seat at these games, and I'd still pinch myself like every game, like, oh my God, like I'm here with these guys. But I wanted to be on that active roster. So every single practice, I just never stopped, to the point where I would be on like a Wednesday practice, and I would be hustling the ball down, and I would like tag off from Reggie Wayne, and he would turn around and start punching me in the face. Like, don't touch me, rookie. Don't touch. Do you know who I am? And like, it got to the point where I was
because they're like, relax, dude.
Yeah,
this like, is just they're already practice. On the team, but you're trying to make the team. So, and if you don't hustle, you're getting yelled at in film.
And you're just smiling and grateful to be there.
So for me, I'm like, dude, it is just practice, but like, this is my game, Reg. And he's like, I don't care. Don't touch me again. And I'm like, wow, I don't know if this guy's a nice guy, but he hates me. And then every guy started hating me, and then all the defensive guys started loving me. They're like, dude, you're pissing him off. It became defense versus offense. Yeah. And I don't know if I ever told you this, in training camp, it's the craziest thing. Guys are all friends until training camp starts. Once they start training camp, it's offense versus defense. Defense eats together. They train together. They watch film together. As soon as they come together, it's only during practice. We don't do any activities together, to the point where as soon as we start hitting, every single practice is fist fights. Like, guys who you think are best friends, they're worst enemies. Like, they hate each other.
Wow.
As soon as training camp ends, right back to being boys. And it's like, that's how you build camaraderie with a team. And they promote it. Like, they promote the fighting. If you get punched and you back off and you're like not a guy, you're getting cut. You're getting sent home because they want to see how you react.
Wow.
So a lot of the vets know. It's almost like sharks. If they smell blood in the water, like they're coming at you, bro. They're going to get you. They're talking that gas. I've never been belittled more in my whole life. Like,
was there anyone that you fought in practice that you were like, I got to get the coach's attention here?
My God.
I'm going to just go in on someone.
Worst experience ever. It was, I'm in film. I'm getting belittled so bad by my linebacker coach. He's like, you're letting Owen Daniels grab you like that. He's a Pro Bowl tight end.
Yeah, because what happens in practice, Ty, is there's no referees. And so, and I know, like, my experience at lowly, SU is not Shawn's experience in the NFL, but the same things like happen where the offensive line, they're also fighting for playing time in their positions, and there's no referees, so they hold you on every play. Like, the offensive line, because they know it's not going to get called in practice, and so they're literally cheating. I mean, you go in on a blitz, you're trying to get the quarterback or the running back, whatever, and they just grab you by the jersey and they'll hold you and lock you up. And in practice, as a linebacker, your coach doesn't care. Like he's like, you either make the play or you don't. And so so like my first practice at SUU, I was getting held and like running back just flying past me, and I can't separate from these huge linemen. And my roommate Bart was like, he's like, you need to like get in a fight and like literally beat the heck out of this kid, or else he's gonna do that to you all season. And so the very next practice, I like just went in and like threw haymakers and trying to punch this kid in the throat and the stomach and kicking him and grabbing his face mask and yanking him to the ground and just like kicking him in the stomach. And then he didn't touch me again the rest of the season or whatever. So it's like
prison rules,
I'm
man.
sure, you know, it really is. But like, if you don't do it, they'll do that. So I'm assuming you had to have had that type of stuff happen where you're like, they're holding me and I have to like let them know that I'm not tolerating
100%.
the holding.
Yeah, so I get held by a Pro Bowl guy who's a multi-million-dollar contract they just signed.
Their best lineman.
Yeah, so this guy's holding me, and the coach literally in film right before practice is like, if you let this guy hold you again and you don't punch him in the face, I'm going to cut you. And I'm like, all right, coach, you're telling me I can punch him? He's like, if you don't punch him, you're getting cut. And I'm like, okay, done. First play of practice, this guy holds me by the jersey, spins me around, I spin around, boom, punch him right in the face. All hell breaks loose. Like, we're going at it.
But a football fight, you don't punch him in the face mask. You're going for like his throat or
I'm
his,
grabbing
like
this
you're
guy.
going any soft spot on the armor is what you're going for.
So I remember Coach Kubiak coming and grabbing me, and he's the head coach, and he's like, number 90. He didn't even like recognize me by my name. Like, he's talking to me now, like, number 90, you see that field right there? He's talking about Reliant Stadium. He's like, today's the last day you're ever going to see that stadium, putting your hands on Owen Daniels like that. He's like, go to the sidelines, and here's my linebacker coach. He's like trotting out this poor guy, Reggie Herring, and he was one of the best linebacker coaches in the NFL. And he's like, I told him to punch him. He's like, you told him to punch him? And now they're fighting. And now everybody's fighting. The defense is fighting the opposite. And this is how we set practice off. And Reggie whispers in my ear, he's like, okay, you still got a job. Like,
nice. Dude, that's so wild, man. Just the intensity of it, right?
But
that's
even
crazy.
intensity for me, like, it was funny because I'll go back to coaching because I definitely want to talk about, while we still got some time, is the rally and the mindset and, like, people who poured into me is not knowing what this job was and what I had to go to on doors. When I got dropped into Houston, into a random market, and I still for solar, like, I'm only, 8 months in, I'm figuring it out.
Yeah.
But to go into a market and have the pressure, like, Shawn, bring this home, for the syndicate, bring this home for the East Coast. My wife, bring this home for your family. And it was almost to the point where she was like, if you don't win, like, don't come home. And like the whole week, 2 weeks leading up to the rally, she's like, you better win first place because Jeff's going to beat the F out of you. And I'm like, Jeff Selniker. They were like hanging pictures up of Jeff in the Boston West office. And Greg's like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, he's taking your soul. I'm like, oh, he's taking my soul. So now I'm like in this football mentality, and I'm on the doors like, hey, if I bring this football mentality to the doors, like, I'm a problem. So it became like coming to the doors, and now I just want to bring the best out of people. So I was like a customer servant, but you have to get that fear out of your mind. So it's almost like, how much time can I, Shawn Loiseau, put in on the doors and get the result of winning? So the first day I'm out there, I'm like, what can I do to just get some momentum? And I leave the hotel at 6 a.m. I'm like, I'm going to gyms. I'm fully dressed, sunrun attire, ready to go. I snuck into like a LA Fitness, and I'm walking on treadmills.
So the rally was what, Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
Yeah.
Is that what it was? So you flew in, we flew everyone in on Wednesday, had a dinner. Dinner went great. Shawn gets to sleep. And then the next morning, I have everyone's location. So I wake up at like 6:30 or whatever, and I look at locations, and Shawn is at a gym, and I was thinking, oh, he must be getting like a quick workout in before he gets after it. He wasn't working out.
No, so like my thing is like,
I didn't know this. That's so cool.
I need to find my people. Like for you, Ty, you're like a chameleon, bro. Like I have friends when I played out in California with the LA Kiss. One of my best friends, Kenny Spencer, the LA Kiss rock band, owned our team. And as a kicker, like, you're never the guy. This guy was on billboards, and he was my roommate.
Oh, no way.
But it was because you could bring him anywhere, and his energy was so contagious, and, like, that's what I see in you. So I'm like, how I could be effective at this job is I have to find my people and, like, fit in right away. So fitness people were my people. I'm like, if I go to a gym and I can just find, like, one guy on one street who can get me, like, two guys, I'm going to start some momentum. So I started walking on a treadmill, and I'm like fully dressed with like a collared
like
shirt.
this, yeah.
And they're like looking over. I'm like, hey man, you live around here? And like, I'm trying to get to the point where I can be like, do you have an electric bill? And like, no, I
Dude,
rent.
I love that though. Like it's what can I do, right? 6 a.m. on a treadmill trying to strike up a
So it
conversation.
was
I
like,
love it.
I transitioned from that to go from LA Fitness. I got a little
Well, hold on. I wanted you to tell him the story of how you went for like multiple treadmills.
Yeah, so the first guy was like, I rent. So I was like, okay, I just cut it off. And he like looked at me like, what? And so like I popped over to another treadmill.
So he's like chit-chatting, and then he's like, hey, by the way, do you own a house? And he's like, no, I rent. And Shawn just goes, cool. Stops his treadmill, leaves the treadmill, and just walks up 10 treadmills down the row and
so
just starts walking
amazing.
next to another guy.
Yeah, so I caught a little momentum. I talked to one guy. He's like, yeah, I live right down the street. You know, come over in an hour or two. I'm like, perfect. So I had seen a CrossFit gym, and it was packed. And I'm like, I got to find a way to like disrupt this class and like get a way to speak to everybody. So I'm like standing there, like I'm clapping. I'm like cheering people on. And I'm like watching people look over like, who is this guy dressed in like a collared shirt? I got my badge on and everything. So I end up getting like the owner of the CrossFit gym to come out, and he's like, do we know you? And once I start talking, they pick my accent up. I'm like, I'm not from around here, but I just got to let you guys know, like, this is awesome. Like, I'm looking to build a gym back home just like this. So it's almost like when I go to doors, I want to get to a minute. I just want to get to conversate with you and let you kind of know what I'm about. And then let's see where this can go. So I was trying to build trust with people foundationally, like in this little area that I wanted to knock in. And it just took off, man. Like that CrossFit guy let me do a survey on his house. And then
Really?
he connected me to 2 people in the gym. And then his mom wanted it. And then I went back in between the CrossFit gym and the LA Fitness was a smoothie shack. So here I am like pitching the guys in the smoothie shack. I'm trying to like stay in the smoothie shack and like wait to see if customers come in so I can pitch them while they're asking for smoothies.
And this is all before like 8:30 in the
All
morning.
before 8:30. So I'm like, what's like a good time to hit doors? And it was just like, I get the call from my wife and she's like, you have to get sick. Like, stop talking about me and stop talking about the kids and stop being grateful and just go get it. And I'm like, this girl is nuts.
She's like slapping you on the
But
face.
this is what I need. Like, that was her in the best way, loving me. And like to the point where when I would start to feel down, I'd get like a text or a call from Adam, or Brad would show up with like Powerades for me. And just like what we had for support out there, even Omar, like with the camera crew, just such great people, man. Like I really think that the reason why I had the opportunity I did is the support you have at Sunrun. Even when I was in Houston, you know, all the miles away, I had all these people who just wanted the best for me. And I feel like that is why I've been able to be successful so fast, is because I am surrounded by incredible people. And I feel like it's so cliche to always say, because people hear it in memes and stuff, you are who you surround yourself with. But if you accept average and you accept who you are, most people, unfortunately, like my age, I'm 34 or younger, we live in this society where you think it's almost like Instagram, where everybody wants to see what you have and not who you are. And I went through that very fast. My rookie year in the NFL, I bought a Lamborghini Gallardo, and, you know, I thought I'd be so much cooler, and I bought this flashy jewelry, and I felt like I needed to wear Gucci and Louis. And my dad always would say this simple thing, and it, like, finally hit, like, 3 or 4 years ago. He's like, the clothes don't make the man makes the clothes. And it's like, wow, like, that's incredible. Like, you can put a real person in whatever outfit, and they're always going to be that same guy. And it's so true about the doors. The doors don't care how you look. They don't care what car you drive. They don't care where you came from. It's every single door is an opportunity. So I drive around with the postcard you sent me, and I have a little book of scratch tickets. And I look at life as an opportunity, and I look at life as every door is a potential scratch ticket. You never know what's going to come from it, but it is an opportunity. That same feeling when you scratch a scratch ticket, you're like, dang, I might win. But yeah, man, it's just incredible.
So tell Ty about the last day of the rally. So going into Saturday morning, it's pretty much tied between all 5 of them. I mean, all 5 of them were just killing it. And so it really came down to Saturday. So just walk us through that final day on Saturday.
And before, how many of your deals, so the ones that you were getting at the gym and stuff, that just kind of got you started, got you feeling comfortable and stuff like that. But how many of your deals came from that type stuff versus just stores?
That chit chat kind of set the momentum of how I had to talk down there. Because here in Massachusetts, solar, either people know what it is or they think it's not a thing yet. And it's to the point where, like, I couldn't talk about solar. That was the death word. If I said the word solar panel
In Texas?
yeah, people were just like, and I was like, okay, how can I transition? And we didn't get the chance to do batteries here. Like, batteries had been a thing up here, but they took it away. I didn't even get a chance to, like, figure out what it did. I knew what batteries were, so I became, hey, I'm Shawn with the battery program. And they're like, the battery program. And I'm like, yeah, like we're going to put these things on your house. And like, if your house gets enough sun, we might put a couple things on your roof that charge it, and your house will, be able to have a battery backup. It's amazing. You heard of Tesla? And like, for me, I'm always digging. Like, if I get an objection at 15 seconds in, how can I get to 30 seconds? How can I get to 45? How can I get to a minute? And I saw a lot of momentum by talking about batteries. So I was like, wow, this battery thing is a thing. Cool. And then when they brought batteries back here, it was almost like I've been so excited to talk about the batteries because I had so much momentum.
You got a dose of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So going into the last day, I've always had this thing where if I ever see a car broken down, I always get out of my car. And my wife, again, she hates it because we'll be in like a rush to go somewhere. I'm seeing someone broke down. She's like, you're not going to do it. I'm like, I have to. So I had pushed some guy out of the road earlier that day, 110 degrees outside. The guy's overheating his car. Here I am like pumping the car down the road, push the car out of the road to transition to him, be like, do you have a house that's close to you?
Wait, tell him what that, because that comes from somewhere. You told me before this pushing the car thing, you had an experience where like you had a car that was always breaking down.
Yes.
Right?
So when we started gym equipment stuff, I had bought this like really raggedy truck, and we had put 140,000 miles on it in under a year, to the point where it would break down once a week. The gas gauge didn't work. I didn't know if the oil needed to be replaced. Nothing. It would break down. I'd be kids in the back, or I'd have like a full car and trailer of gym equipment, and here I am broken down the side of the road. And if I was somewhere in close vicinity of my house, people would be like waving at me like, there's Shawn. I'm like, I'm broken down. Does anybody stop? Nobody would stop. So I'd be like, I have this mindset that you never know what can come from helping somebody. Just a random act of kindness. 9 out of 10 times you might not get something from it, but just that feeling of helping somebody, and somebody that really needed help, you can't buy that. So for me, I was like, I'm going to take opportunities down here in Houston that, may not be just me knocking a door. It's just an opportunity to help somebody, and then I'm going to ask for something from it. So it was like I pushed this car out of the road. Nothing came from the first one. I had made my mind up that I was going to try this new area. So I drive down, I think it was Cypress. I drive down to Cypress, and here's a car broken down the road. I rip a Yui, and I'm like, hey, just put the car in neutral. They speak Spanish. So here I am, like, ripping my little bit of Spanish Portuguese that I know, and they're, like, looking at me like, who is this guy? I have my badge on. So I push him out of the road, and then another car pulls up, and they're like, hey, what's the badge about? And I'm like, oh, I just got flown out here for this competition. I'm trying to, help homes get their free solar assessment, and, it's for a battery program, but the solar might make sense. And he's like, I have a house down the street, and my uncle lives right across the street. Why don't you come over, like, right now? I'm like, right now? And this is like 8 o'clock at night. So
on Friday.
I do 2 doors back to back, and I'm looking at the street. I'm like, hey, man, this is a really good neighborhood. Do you think I can come back here tomorrow? He's like, oh, I'll introduce you to the neighbor if you come here early in the morning. So here I am, like 8 a.m., and there's a house down the street. A guy's working on his house, and I get out of the car, and before I even say anything, he's like, don't say anything. I'm like, dude, the fence looks great. You do this yourself? He's like, don't say anything. He's like trying to kick me off, and I'm just pushing. Yeah. To the point where I'm like, hey, can I get an appointment? Like, can I come back here and talk to you? He's like, if you just leave me alone, just come back at 1. I'm like, all right, done. I'll come back at 1. So I go back over to the street. He introduced me to the neighbor. And Omar, I think like you had just started showing up, bro. This guy, I pitch him in the front lawn, and I'm playing with his kids to the point like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing here? I'm like, yeah, man, I just want an opportunity. I'm going to set you up with a home survey. Do you have an electric bill? He's like, yeah, my wife does it. I'm like, can you get her? And he's looking at me like, you're not really going to try to sell me right now. And I guess he was so impressed by what I did, and I just didn't take no. He was like, you know what? I'm going to set up a table in the garage. I bet you can't do my neighbor. I'm like, I bet you I can. So he set this table up in his garage, and he brought his neighbor over, and the neighbor, same thing, like, I'm definitely not doing this, to the point where he walks all the way back to his house, gets his electric bill, signs up for a survey. And now the guy's like, I bet you can't do the neighbor across the street. Like, I bet you I can.
He's just bringing people to
the garage. And poor Omar's like, dude, we got to get some film. Like, when are you going to come out of that garage? I'm like, bro, you would not believe what's going on in here right now. Like, this is crazy. So I get through all these, and in Houston, there's over 90 suppliers. So, like, I'm on the phone with sales support. I'm trying to, like, put this stuff in and create leads, and then, like, try to hold conversation with all these people in the garage. And I have text messages coming in. Sonny's like, where are we at? How many do we need? Yeah. He's like, do you need anything? I'm like, oh my God, I was flying. I ended up doing like 11 SRAs that day.
Man.
And I went back to the construction guy, and I sit down with him. I'm like, what are you guys drinking? I run over to the package store. I grab them like a 12-pack, and there's 3 of them sitting there. And then 2 out of the 3 I signed up for surveys. And then I'm like, hey man, do you got anybody you know? He's like, bro, you're relentless. And whenever I hear that word, I love it. I have it tattooed on my
I
arm.
see it.
And just to be relentless, I think is just like the superpower in this job that you really need. Is people are telling you no because they just need to be like confirmed that you just want them. And I feel like whenever I see somebody who's relentless, like I appreciate that. Even people who stand in the middle of the mall, nobody ever gets me to stop because they just give up. Like people on the doors are really good. They know how to like give you an objection because everybody before, when they give that objection, they walk away. But then they start to realize, like, when you come to a door, if the objection just doesn't make sense, you just learn how to just be that guy on the door that knows how to talk to people. But customer service is the best thing we can have, you know, going to a door. Is just serving people. And I feel like people can feel that right away, you know?
It's such a great story. Like, I love the idea of, like, but you're also, like, you're so open to the goodness that comes, like, right? Like, a lot of people, like, are just, they have their head down and they're just going. Like, I love the idea that what you put out there is, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help somebody else, and something good may come from that. And so, like, even the idea to take a 12-pack to a house and say, is there anybody that I can help? Or to engage enough with the neighbor where it's like, I'm going to set up a table and, like, let's go. Like, most people would never find themselves in that situation because they're not open enough to it to receive it. You know, like, I don't know you all that well, but I would bet your life that kind of stuff happens in your life all the time. It sounds like it, with getting cut 5 times and then ultimately playing and then making it into the rally championship, and then having these experiences where, you know, it's probably now to the point where you can go into Houston and occupy a couch if you had to, where you'd be like, hey, you remember, you know what I mean? Like, you just create experiences because you're so open. The other thing, I don't know if you know about this, but on the Relentless front, that was the name of my first sales brand.
Wow.
It was Relentless. And it's the same thing, where I admire that in a person. So Rob Dyrdek has it tattooed on his arm,
That's
like,
so
on
cool.
his forearm. And I started thinking about what that meant. And in our world, you know, what we do is not as physically as impressive as the world that you came from, right? Like, those guys in the NFL, it's like, man, they're such physical specimens and they're relentless. But what you do now is relentless. It's the same thing. It just looks a little bit different. And so we have this logo, and it's funny because, all the letters are lowercase. It's cyan blue, and the logo is a penguin. And he's missing an eye. He's got an X over one of his eyes. And I've told the story on here before, but the reason for that is an emperor penguin. The sole job of hatching the egg is the male's job in, like, the penguin colony, you know? And so they would do these exoduses where the female would, like, create an egg or whatever, hand it over to the male, and their holy cause, their sole purpose is to hatch this egg, right? So they would, and penguins are like the most unimpressive bird. They can't even fly. Their legs are all short. They just kind of, right? And so you don't look at them and be like, dang, if I could just be a penguin. But you watch them work, and those suckers are relentless. They literally, with their little tiny legs, shuffle hundreds of miles across the most, like, intense weather, and they're protecting this egg from predators, from other people. They can't drop it. They go without food. They go without shelter. They deal with these, like, Arctic, like, winds and storms. And so I was like, that's relentless. It's just one foot in front of the other forever.
Wow.
It's I'm going to try this. And if I don't get in here, I'm going to go around, and you're going to have to tell me no, right? Not, oh, it's not a good time. Oh, okay. Well, it's like, no, that's not a no. Right. So to me, like, it's funny because you see relentless in, like, this guy is going to smash you because he's relentless, but I don't think that's it. I think relentless is, I will persist until I succeed.
Right.
You're going to have to kill me. Now, I'm not always going to be intense and in your face, but I will not stop until you make me stop, right? And most people won't stop you, right? Like, the world responds to that kind of thing, right?
Well, it's also not, like, I think sometimes sales people get misconstrued that, like, on an individual door, you're going to be relentless with this one person, but that can lead to the cops getting called on you, or, like, a really poor experience where they're now posting about you on a group Facebook page or whatever. Relentless is still having enough social awareness to, like, know when to cut your losses and move on. But the relentless part comes from not quitting for the day after one bad door or one bad experience. The relentless part is, okay, that was just one door. I'm on to the next, and I'm on to the next, and I'm on to the next, until you just, it's like Chance always says, that Navy SEAL quote where we don't quit when we don't quit when we're tired, we quit when we're done.
Right.
And that's, like, the relentless piece of it, right? Where you just go until you kind of can't go anymore.
Yeah.
And I saw that with Shawn in the rally. It was really cool to go down in Houston and, cheer on all those guys. And we had 4 people from the East Coast. So I was kind of like splitting my time, going around and like checking in on everybody. And I was on a group chat with Sonny and Shawn, and it was just the relentless mentality from both of them that Shawn wasn't going to quit until he was done. Didn't matter how tired he was. Didn't matter like what was going on. It was just like, we're going to go until the wheels fall off this thing.
Yeah,
so
and it's not aggression. It's deliberance, right? It's the fact that it's resoluteness. That's more what it is. It's like, listen, like I've made up my mind that I'm going to be successful. Now come what may, right? Like
my intensity, like my football relentless, like you guys are saying, is so different than my doors relentless. Like I am the softest human being on the doors. I'm never rude. I'm never overstepping, and you can kind of feel the energy. My relentless pursuit is like, unless you tell me to F off, you're going to have to see, you're my first house every single day. And it gets to the point, like, some of these people who go all the way with panels on the roof, I've been working for 4, 6, 8 months now. And it's like, I just never give up. Why give up on somebody? It's just maybe I didn't say it. Maybe it's timing. And you as a dad, you guys know, if you knock our doors at 7 o'clock when it's kids' time to go to bed and the kids are little, the first person that I'm going to take my energy out on is a door guy. And most of these younger kids don't get that. Like a lot of times it's timing. But my relentless is like Adam said, I'm going to be door after door after door after door. The same energy, the same big smile, the same pursuit. And what I give off, you can never take back a first impression. So after they keep seeing that I'm the same guy week after week after week, they're like, dude, I don't know what it is about this guy. Like, let's just do it, man.
You can't help but root for him. And I love that because it is one of those things where if you listen to what people say, a lot of times you project onto them. Like people will say, it's like, you come to my house at 7. I'm like, dude, I just got home. I have 6 kids. I haven't been here for days. It's not a good time. Most people hear that, like, nobody wants solar. But that's not what I said, right? What I said was, now is not a good time.
Right, exactly.
Right? And so I think if you perform in accordance with that, and you're like, okay, cool, I'll come back at a time when it is a good time. And then if you come back and they're like, hey, you're back, you're like, well, yeah, it was a bad time. Is it? You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that like, I'm a pretty persistent door knocker when I'm knocking. I don't badger people. I'm very relaxed. But you have to use the words to communicate. Like, I don't really know if we'd be interested. That's not a no. That's a, I don't really know if we'd be interested. So let's talk about it. I get it. I totally understand that you don't know if you'd be interested. So let's talk about it, right?
Yeah, and you get a feel for, like, I think all of us are trained to kind of get through that first, like, smoke screen. Like, hey, no big deal, I'll be super quick. And then if you can see them getting annoyed with you, just know when to, like, cut your loss, live to fight another day, right? Because if you push them too hard, then you burn the bridge or you burn the door. So, and I've even had several sales where I could tell I caught them at a really bad time, and I'll just stop them even like mid-sentence and be like, hey, I can tell I kind of caught you at a bad time. I'm going to be in the neighborhood the next couple of days. I'll try back by another day or whatever. If I see you outside, I'll stop by or whatever. And then, like, a lot of times they'll be like, well, what are you doing now? Yeah. And then you even get the convo. But it's like, you just have to, like, learn when to, like, it's like fly fishing. Like, you don't ever want to snap your line. So it's like, if you can tell the door's getting high tension, like, let some slack out of the fishing line. And then when you can see that, like, they're relaxing a little bit, then you start pulling them in again. You know what I mean?
Good analogy, dude.
I think another one too is like,
I just came up with that on
that
the fly.
That was hot. That was a good one.
If I see a guy doing yard work, that's my guy. Like, you're not going to hide from me in the house. I'm going to force a conversation.
Yeah, and so many reps walk past those people,
oh
too.
My
and I'm
God,
like, go talk to the people out there already outside. The hardest part, you already passed it.
I love people outside. It's the best. This is my first summer I've ever knocked doors. When I first started, I was in the middle of the winter.
Oh, man, that's
dark
great.
at 4 o'clock, snow out, nobody's out. Yeah. Now I'm out. There's people selling bug spray. There's people selling weed control. There's people, like, I might be the 5th guy that knocked your door this week. I'd rather catch you in the yard, or if I see a house that looks like a scary house, like a big truck or like a guy's guy, like, I want to talk to this guy. Yeah. Jack guy, tattoos, whatever. I'm coming there. I'm relating some way, shape, or form. Like, I had a guy shadowing me the other day on the doors, and I was digging, and the shadows watching me. I'm like, hey, man, we relate because of this. And he's like, no, we don't. And I'm like, well, we relate because you like the Patriots. He's like, I don't even like the Patriots. I'm like, well, we relate because we both own a house. And he's like laughing. He's like, we don't. I'm like, well, I love the bass boat because I grew up fishing. He's like, no, you didn't. I'm like, I guarantee I grew up fishing. We got into like a 10-minute conversation.
Found it.
And all I had to do was find some way to relate to this guy. And that's all he wanted. He's like, I'll tell you what. Like, I've never let anybody talk to me at the door, but like, you got it going on. It was your posture, the way you spoke. You never broke eye contact with me. He's like, the second someone breaks eye contact with me, I know right immediately this isn't a guy that I even want to talk to. And it's like, sometimes you get this coaching on the doors, and you're like, you only get that from the practice of doing the things that you fear the most. So
that's great.
Well, Shawn, you've been awesome, dude. I know before we wrap up, I know you give a ton of credit to your wife, Sunny. She's amazing. I've met her a bunch of times. She's here now with you. And then also your family, you know, your mom and your dad. And like every time I hear you talk, you're always giving gratitude to all the people in your life. So we're about out of time, but I do want to give you an opportunity to just kind of wrap it up with anything like that you want to share. And then we'll tie it up.
I feel like the only way I can be successful at this job, because it beats you down every day, is to wake up extremely grateful. And I feel like no matter what you have, material, money, all the tangible stuff that you can physically get in this world, there's nothing more important than your people. And it's like, you know who you love. And if you love those people who love you, you're only going to get the best out of life. And battling with my dad, I didn't even want to really go into this, but I feel like my dad, he has hospice right now. He was given 6 months to live 7 months ago. And I don't open up about that. And I feel like there's a lot of people in this job who go through personal struggles, and they always have an excuse why they don't need to work. And I've made whatever my dad is going through, I promised him that, Dad, I'm going to give you one last really cool story before I have to say goodbye to you. And it's like, it's emotional, but I work every day for a purpose because I want to make the people who I love proud. And my little ones are too little right now to know, but they're going to grow up one day and they have the same last name as me. And that last name is going to mean something. No matter how much money I made, no matter what car I drove, nobody remembers that. And I still have like other reps. A rep knocked the door the other day and he's like, hey, Shawn, I think you were the guy who knocked this door. He said that he had talked to you 5 months ago, some crazy football guy with a nice smile. And it's like, I left an impression on somebody. And that's all I want in this life, is to just be an impression. When I walk into a room, if I walk into a dark, gloomy room, I just want to be that light bulb, because the light, it attracts, man. And other people who want to be positive and want to be loving, it's very contagious. And I feel like you two do that, and that's why this company is what it is. So I really appreciate today. Thank you, guys.
Dude, this is going to help a lot of people, man. And you're so early in your story. Like, I can't wait to see the things that you continue to accomplish. Like, you don't know what it's going to become, but it's probably going to be better than you had imagined, because you're employing the right principles. So,
Man, thank you.
yeah. Well, thank you. And thanks for sharing with us. And, thanks for sharing. This is going to go out to everybody. So now you've piped into everybody's car speakers and they're going to jump out and hit some doors. So it's been a great conversation.
And it's pronounced Loiseau.
Loiseau.
Shawn
Remember that
Loiseau,
name.
everybody.
Remember that name.
Hey, thanks, Shawn.
Thank you, guys.
If you're listening to this and interested in joining our teams, DM us on Instagram @RunTheLeague.
What are you waiting for? Run the league, shoot us a DM, and let's get going.